Welcome to episode 90 of the Game Changers. I'm your host, Carla, and tonight I'm bringing the heat with none other than Nicolas Wilcox. His knowledge and insights are sure to elevate our conversation as I dig into the game behind the game. A huge shout out for the TSA team for backing this mission of amplifying voices and sparking ideas. This platform exists because of visionaries like them and listeners like you. Whether you're here for fantasy football gold or simply love stories that shift perspective, you're in the right place. The Game Changers is more than a podcast, it is a movement. Let's kick things off by getting to know our guest a little better. Who is Nick Wilcox? Today's guest is more than a fantasy football analyst. He is a walking testimony of resilience, faith, and fire. A proud believer in Christ and a leukemia survivor, Nick brings heart to every stat and soul to every stream. By day, he's a dairy buyer for CNS Wholesale, keeping things cool and collected. But when the mics is on, he's co-hosting the fantasy football show with his homeboy John, where the banter is sharp, the vibes are high, and the community is real. Nick is also a writer for Fantrax, and if you've ever caught one of his pieces, you know he's not just talking fantasy, he's building connections. He's a proud Yankee and Jet fan. Yes, he's got thick skin. A video gamer who knows how to unwind, and a reality TV junkie who could probably outplay half the cast of the challenge survivors and Big Brother. Nick's passion for the game runs deep, whether he's repping his Yankee and Jad, diving in video games, or dropping motivational quotes that hit harder than Derrick Henry's stiff arm. He is a proud member of the SFB 13 and 15 leagues, and you'll find Nick's strategy, mind, and competitive spirit right at home. Buckle up, because when Nick talks fantasy, it's not just stats, it's storytelling, strategy, and straight up swagger. Let's welcome the man who proves that faith, fight, and fantasy football can live in the same sentence. Nick Wilcox, everybody. Welcome, Nick.
What's
How
up?
are you tonight?
What's up? What's up? Turn me up. Turn me up. What up? What up? It's great to be here with you.
Welcome. I'm so happy to see you. I mean, we've lived in Connecticut forever. We have two common friends, which is Abby and Brandon. And then we met at at Ohio. Like, what is that?
Don't forget about Doug. He's a friend too, right?
I mean, Doug, we will leave him for later. But can you believe that? Like, we've been friends for forever, and then we got connected more when we went to the fantasy football in Ohio. So, like, tell me, Nick, how did your relationship with Christ? We're going to talk about Christ because you told me that your faith in Christ is really big. So, we're going to talk about your faith journey first and your leukemia journey. So, how did Christ, like your relationship with Christ, first take shape, and how has it evolved through the years?
It's a really good question. My faith in the Lord comes from, you know, being in environments growing up that wasn't like the best fitting. So my whole thing was for, life was, when I got introduced through a family member through Christ, like, it was one of those things where you just felt that initial energy, you felt that pull, you felt that, liveness when you were around certain people that actually, believed in Christ and did the daily things and in their own walks, right? So I found that very inspiring and motivating. And, again, I was maybe 16 at the time when I gave my life to the Lord, and just sitting there in church and just, I just felt like this warm sensation, this warm, like, invitingness. And I knew it was him pulling at me saying, okay, this is the time. And sitting here, here, and it wasn't even something. It was literally just like a gravity pull of like a warm sensation. And I was like, I knew then that I was like, it was time to, really dive into this, and seeing what, the Christian life is all about. Because obviously, none of us is perfect and we all fall short at times. The biggest thing is that, again, to look to always inspire and motivate other people around you to continue doing it. Again, it's not easy. And again, a lot of us fall short. I've definitely fallen short for sure. In the walk, but it's all about, again, like raising to, our most high, and, again, just inspiring others to do the same. I'm not about like, if someone's about a different religion or whatever, I don't get into all that. I appreciate people for what they are, where they come from. And I really enjoy trying to get to know people from, again, from their own perspective, because everyone on this planet, like, has endured something to be here, right? Like, we built.
Yes.
You're here for a purpose. You were, you beat millions of sperm cells to be here, right?
Yeah.
You were like you're one in many million. Honestly, not just one in a million. They say one in a million, right? No, you were one in many million, honestly, to get here on this earth. So, to put a bow on this, like, the start of my journey with Christ and my continued walk with Him is something that you're always trying to learn something or relearn something, or sometimes you're running into the same thing, you're wondering why. So you ask Christ, He usually brings you. How I find is that He usually speaks to you in your own language. And that most won't understand. Maybe some will, because that's part of why they entered into the situation, to tell you something. But it's also it's like, again, like, sometimes you're not gonna just be able to just open. I gotta read and open my Bible. I'm gonna find it in there. You are, but at the same time, like, someone or something's gonna happen. You be, this is the Lord talking to me. Okay, I'm listening. I'm listening.
Let me ask you that question, because you said at 16 you found Christ, and a lot of people want to know, especially because you went through leukemia. Did Christ came first before leukemia, or because you went through a hardship that you found Christ?
No, Christ was before. Christ was there in my life beforehand. And the thing was, how all the leukemia went down was, literally, you probably couldn't really script it. It's like literally like out of a movie script, really, on how things really happen. Well, because again, like, one day you feel fine, the next moment you're in a hospital bed. So, and again, that's just where, during that time, your not only your faith, brings you up even more, but it was like, again, the Lord's just saying that, hey, like, like, you're gonna be fine. Don't worry about other people or whatever's going on. Like, just focus on me. And I adhere to that. So, again, I feel very blessed and fortunate, because even though people that believe in the Lord, they still sometimes succumb to cancer in general. But again, sometimes that's why I tell everybody, when you're talking about life, it's like, we talk about the present because it's a gift. And that's where we overall have to continue to encourage one another. And no matter what people are dealing with, try to be, have some fun and joke around, but also understand, like, don't be so too harsh on people, because you never know what they're going through either.
So the first time I heard your story, it was when I was listening to you, like at 2-3 o'clock in the morning with big draft energy. And I was really surprised, because I never knew that you are a cancer survivor. So walk me through the moment you first learned that you had leukemia. What went through your mind at that time?
Well, I knew I opened my eyes. So that was the first thing. I was like, okay, I opened my eyes. But where am I? I'm sitting in the hospital bed. looking at my wristband and finding out what the details were, trying to play detective, right?
Yeah.
Little did I know I was out for a whole 8 days.
Wow.
Hospital bed. They were doing all these tests on me, doing chemotherapy, like all these things. And yeah, I was in a coma for like 8 days. So
that's crazy.
I know, crazy, right? It's always one of those things where it's like, yeah, I get to tell that part. I get to tell that story. As I'm smiling. But you're asking what happened at the moment. The only thing that was running through my head, and I said it already, when talking to Disco, and I was like, look, like, I know if my father walks through that door, because I haven't talked to my father in years, we don't have the best relationship and whatever. But if he walks through that door, there's problems. Something's terribly wrong. And my father walks through the door at like 6:30 in the morning, because that's how he always is. Wakes up really early in the morning. And he's like, oh, hey, son, how's it going? I'm like, oh, boy. I was like, I'm fine, Dad. You want to tell me what's going on?
You're asking him what's going on when you are on the bed in the hospital.
Right. You want to tell me what's going on? So I it's just one of those things where it's like, not to speak ill of my father or whatever, but it was more just like, again, like, you just know something's really up. Like, you know those people in your life that show up and you're like, oh man, something's terrible. Like, the vibe is going to be so weird now because this person's here, or, this is whatever. This is how it's going to be, all this. And I'm like, oh boy. So that's how that went. But what I'll say is that through the journey of being in cancer, like, it is, again, I'm really blessed to have been through that, be on the other side of it, and be healthy. Because I get to now share like encouraging wisdom with other people that I know if the Lord didn't bring me through, I wouldn't be able to share.
Yeah, nice. So, what's the most unexpected lesson you took away from your treatment experience?
I think the most unexpected lesson was that, people are going to come in and out of your life. Circumstances are going to happen, right? And the biggest thing was that Christ is never going to leave you nor forsake you. And we say that, but it's really one of those things where it's like understanding that, where it's like those days I was in the hospital alone, where it was pre-COVID, but it was still like, because of my immune system being where it was like touching a newborn baby again. You know what I'm saying? Because of any cold or anything like that, it had to be a very precarious situation. True. It was like you had to be gentle. So as much as and me, I want to hug people, want to be on top of people. Yo, what up? This, give people hugs, taps, all that stuff. And I really couldn't. Like, unless I had a glove and mask on, which is funny because I think another unexpected lesson was the Lord's getting me for COVID. All right.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. So, what coping strategies did you learn on during the toughest days of chemo?
That I can endure a ton. Even when sometimes when you think you don't think you can, or think you whatever, like, you can. Again, some of those days where there were times where I was in Boston, so I was like a few hours away from everyone, from my support system. So Brandon and Abby, that's also why some of those are my best friends, because they were the ones that actually saw me in the hospital while they're in the area during the timing of all that too. So what I'll say is that, again, you'll have people that come through and out of your life also, but it'll also people that would just stick. So remember that too. Remember who your day ones are, because that's also where the beauty of life is also. And they really can come unexpectedly. You think you have like day ones, you think you have like best friends or whatever, until something dramatic like that happens to you.
Yes. Till you need somebody next to you. I love that. When you need somebody next to you, it's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit how it all started with fantasy football.
Sure.
So you started your journey with Christ, and then cancer happened. When did fantasy football happen?
That happened before. So about 2007. So I was like a sophomore in high school. I was literally just like every other, 14, 15, 16-year-old in high school, whatever, just like trying to break the rules and trying to be on the internet, you know what I'm saying, and breaking through firewalls and all this stuff, whatever. So sometimes you couldn't do that on some days because honestly, there were some people that came through and they were able to, you can't watch this, or nope, you can't see this, or YouTube's banned, and this, and the third. So I was like, dang. So I had a Yahoo account at the time. And I was like, oh, yeah, fantasy football. What's that all about? And I thought it was like initially just like a game that you could kind of just eventually download and play or whatever and stuff like that. But then I learned, I was like, oh, this is just statistics of fantasy football, or football transitions into this game, and it's matchup based and point based, whatever, stuff like that. You got to look at the rules. Okay, cool. I joined a couple of public leagues at the time. And then the next year, a few of my high school friends and stuff like that, we got together. We're like, yo, like, you play fantasy football? I have, but not with actual like people around me. Like, well, let's do something about this. Like, so that just transitioned to like something we talked about like every week. Like, that came in. We had built up all these like these rivalries and stuff like that with one another and everything. It's like, yo, you going down this week? No. No, Roy Williams gonna do this, or Des Bryant's gonna do this, or like whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like Clinton Portis when he was late in his career, like those type of dudes, like Andrew Luck. Like it's like, yo, just the conversations were just maddening at times too. So I definitely enjoyed those moments too, because they were just smack talking, like, we knew but not really knew, like, so it was like, a battle of the feet. I won one year during that time, and I won that home league at least 5 times since. So
you kidding? That's crazy.
No, yeah, it's something that I I definitely enjoy doing. It's something I haven't done in a few years. I'm trying to take that crown back, but no, that's how the journey went. As far as from fantasy football, and then I got into DFS, and then I got into that realm around actually time, like around my cancer diagnosis, because I was like, I had a lot of free time. Some of the people that I initially watched in the industry, like around that time over the last, around that period, was like Evan Silva and JJ Zacharison when he was still with Number Fire, and Rich Rebar, Konami Code, like so obviously dropping names because that was that, and just again, it was so cool. We did an interview with Rich Rebar the other week. So if you want to check out the Fantasy Football Show, overall on YouTube, check that out because that's amazing. Rich is amazing. But it was again around that time, diving into the contents of what DFS was, and finding out that I could take not only the money from my league mates at the end of the year for championship, take it every week if we want to.
I didn't know you were playing before. I'm telling you, like the first time I saw you in Ohio, I'm like, okay, you're starting to play. To tell me that you started at that young of an age?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Kudos, my man. Kudos.
There's a lot of evolution involved.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So tell me, how do you integrate your survival story into the content that you create now?
For me, I don't necessarily blend them together. It's more about like, I personally, for me, like I've gotten, I would say, for me with my story, I've really used it in pockets of like privacy in a way.
Yeah.
I've only been more recently opening up about that because it's just something that I think that just needs to be said and spread around.
I agree.
And I don't want or need or anything from it or da-da-da. It's just, when someone asks about it or someone said, I didn't know this about you, whatever, like, it's like, yeah, well, I'll let you know about it. I'll let you know what happened. But I really try to really dictate it towards individuals who are, like trying to understand, whether it be them or like people that they truly care about and know. Like example, one of the you asked earlier what one of the hardest like lessons or whatever was that sometimes there goes my light. Second, there goes my light. That's fun. But one of the things that I also learned was that if you, I had this cancer diagnosis at a young age.
Yeah.
And what comes with that is sometimes a lack of not understanding sometimes, because your overall, this should go in 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Sometimes you just got to plug it in, is what it is.
Yeah.
Even though you charge, it's one of those things, you charge it for so long and then all of a sudden like the battery life sucks. Anyway, sidetrack and side note. But what I was saying is that you're gonna, as far as me being like a young age during the time, I was like 24, 25, during that moment in time. So I didn't have a lot of like people around my age dealing with that at the time. There were people like that were like twice as my age in the hospital, just talking about like, it's like, you're dealing with this at your age? I'm like, well, yeah, like I am. It's like, that's so crazy. Like, it's like, but the Lord's going to bless you. Like, he definitely is. So, so for me, just translating it back to like, how I just talk about my story and everything. It's really just, again, I try to tell people who are, again, either they're going through it personally or they know someone that's either gone through it or, passed away from it or whatever. So, like, again, sometimes, I reached out to a friend of mine like a few weeks back, actually, and his father is going through leukemia right now. And all I can keep telling him is that, like, look, like, I don't know all the nuances, and I'm not here to tell you what's going to happen or this, that, and the third. I'm not the Lord or anything. But it is one of those things where just, keep seeking him, because you never know, like, in a way too. So I just try to uplift and try to inspire and motivate in a way, like, just for people to kind of not feel like it's the end all be all either. So
that's what's important. That's what's important. And telling your story, telling about the resilience and everything that you went through and how you kicked cancer. Like, everybody have somebody affected with cancer. And hearing someone that already went through it and was resilient enough to talk about it and stand tall, I mean, you kick it in the butt. So people wants to hear these stories because they want to see the person behind it all. And thank you for sharing that tonight, Nick. I'm sure people are listening and they are applauding you 100% with your story. So let's talk a little bit about your fantasy football journey. Can you describe your aha moment when you realized you could turn this passion into a career?
Well, I'll say this. Turn it into a career, we'll see, right? That's still a work in progress. What I will say is that I've been blessed with one of these gifts called the gift of gab, right?
Yeah.
So I like to talk a lot. I like to talk some more and keep on talking. So, when I realized that, like, I was able to, when I was in college, I was able to really.
I just want to tell you, and I cannot say much, Keisha, but I love you. I love you so much. Yeah, go ahead.
No problem. So I realized, like, when I was in college, I worked for, shout out to Bob Molza, because at Eastern, I think he's still there after all these years. He is the sports information director. And I had come to him in his office, like, beginning my sophomore year at Eastern, and just like hoping to get like anything to start getting into the sports career in general. Like I eventually wanted to do some more announcing and stuff like that. But he was like, hey, look, I have an opportunity where you could just do like, some data, you can do some writing and stuff like that, whatever too. And I was like, well, sure, why not? Like, I'm gonna pay for it, right? It's like, yeah. So he took a chance on me, and I'll never forget that, because what that did for me was able to really start my broadening of my skill set to what I'm able to do, and then also eventually uncover as well. So what I uncovered is that I'm not the biggest statistical person, whatever. What I did realize that I know I could articulate a ton of how things can go. And from that being said, it was something that really started to get my career up and going, because it was something that I started to just notice for myself. Where I was like, oh, okay, I could talk this, I could talk to, I could also write this in a newsletter, I could, transcribe and stuff like that, interviews and stuff like that. So that was also just sharpening my skill sets. I eventually did some more like, announcing and play-by-play and stuff like that. And it was for different sports. It wasn't just for basketball or football. It was like lacrosse. It was soccer. It was this. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is cool. It's a cool thing to do. And again, just really broadening my like horizon. So how I started to get more into this, I did some freelancing several years back in the fantasy football like world. So I did like the news desk for Fantasy Pros. That was like one of my initial first things. And I did some freelancing for some other sites. But then just took a step back from it, because I was like, I feel like it wasn't getting me to a point that I really wanted to go. And I was putting way too much like stress and like trying to, I have to lay a career at like ESPN or Fox Sports. I have to do something with the NFL Network or this. And if anyone's listening right now or will re-listen to this, just understand that like don't put that pressure or stress on yourself. Eventually the opportunities will start coming when you overall meet the right people. They see what you're doing, they believe in what you're doing, and you keep on just executing no matter who's watching, who's listening. It don't really matter, because for me, I put so much emphasis on that too. It's like, hey, like like I really want to be noticed and this, that, and the third, whatever. And I'm like, now being where I am now, it's like that's totally not what it's about. It's like literally just like, again, meet good people, make good connections, ask good questions, and ask for help if you need it.
And be yourself.
And of course, be yourself.
Be yourself. That's the most important thing.
No one else gonna do it but you. So
yes. So I want to ask you, a question that, talking about like being yourself. How do you stay creative when everyone's discovering the same matchups each week? How can you stay creative and being you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I bring a different type of energy. Let's just say that. It's noticed by some people out there and some people that I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? So it's something where it's like, I know I bring my own flavor to the table, and sometimes people don't see it right away. Like for instance, hey Tip, Devon Achane. When I talked about with Tip Major last year about Devon Achane, and everyone's kind of doubting him and this, that, and the third about Devon Achane, I was like, look, like I think he's gonna definitely do some big things. Where he's going, it's nuts. What Devon Achane do? He was decent. Like, he was end up beating his ADP, end up killing it, even though Miami didn't kill it. But it was just, again, it's one of those things where we have this back and forth banter with different people in the space and stuff like that. And how I just say different and how I find creativity is that, I try to look for, we talked about on the show before, I try to find some micro edges, whether that be in like draft season, whether that be in, in season, stuff like that. And just to kind of plant a flag or, take a player that you really like and really try to observe and see how it is. You may not always find the so-called player of the year or the waiver wire breakout or whatever, because you're going to make mistakes. Most of us in the fantasy space, like 6% of us are, 6% of the time, our takes are going to be wrong. So it's all about nailing the 40% to the best of your ability, because fantasy football is ever changing. Like someone could get hurt at practice tomorrow, and that could change everything. So,
True.
so that's where, again, like I don't put too much. Like I said, as a younger man, I still am kind of young, but when I was younger per se, I put a lot of like emphasis on like I need to be right, I need to nail this or this, that, and the third. I need. It's like I need this. Like, and it's like, no, you don't. Like you said, just go out and being yourself and, being a way to be creative and
100%.
And to stand out that way. And, some people are going to mess with that vibe, and that's cool. And some aren't, and that's okay too. Cause they'll find it, whatever, or it don't matter. Maybe you're not everyone's cup of tea, which is okay too. So.
Listen, when people start messing with whatever you're doing, know that you are already here and you're doing something good, and that's why you have haters. So haters are going to hate, Mr. Nick. So know that you're doing a great job. And that's it. Just know that you're doing a great job. And I just want to say hi to everybody writing, saying hi to us on the side. Thank you so much for being here. We really love you and appreciate you. So let's continue, Nick. How did you cultivate the close-knit community around the fantasy football show?
So the story is always cool because it was something that, I guess it's intuition things, right? When it comes to just garnering, what I wanted to do next, because like I told you, I was a few years removed from like being kind of scathed a little bit by the community in some ways, and not the fantasy football community, but just like the expectations I had for myself. And Andy. Andy Barons. What is he doing here?
I love you, Andy. Thank you for saying that.
Andy is funny, yo. Quick little story. Andy kept on telling everybody, don't interact with me. Don't interact with Nick. This. Don't interact with me. Because
my last,
I got him to talk. Let's just say that I got him to talk, and what we discussed between me and him.
So my last show with Andy, he kept telling me, why am I telling you those stories? Like, why am I telling you those stories? It was amazing. So thank you, Andy, for being here, and everybody else. Thank you. I appreciate you. Go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
No problem at all. But yeah, how me and my guy John got together was, like I said, I was kind of in a headspace where I was like, I didn't know exactly what my next move was going to be. I just knew my next move was going to be something that was going to be something I actually really wanted to do and have fun with. Because I spent a few years just kind of putting way too much pressure on myself, way too much expectations.
Yes.
And I kind of in a way my own self kind of just fizzled out. And like I said, I wanted to do the next move. I wanted to do what I wanted to be fun. I wanted to be exciting, and I wanted to do it, whether it be myself or just like, with someone else. And I didn't really. So the Scott Fishbowl, I didn't really know about the Scott Fishbowl until a few years back. So my first one was SFB 13. And yeah, it was out in Boston. So it was a way for me to kind of, I was like, oh, okay, what's this about? Because I knew people had said it before, whatever, but I really didn't get invited until the 13. And I was like, this is dope. This is cool. So we went out to Boston. It was fun vibes. And that's where I met John. And I'll put it out there. He was like the only brother I saw. So I was like, man, we the only brothers in here, huh? Like, yeah. I know. I was like, well, at least I got somebody, like,
I'm a sister too. Just saying.
So, but that's how we initially got things going, and he was just,
I love that.
He was like, yeah, I wanted to kind of get into it and stuff like that. I've done this, I've done that, done some videos here and there. Like, oh, this is dope. This, that, and the third. And yeah, I was like, look, like, yeah, I mean, hey, I'm looking to do something eventually. If you want to just, find out if we can do something or whatever, and take it from there. And man, this talk about a fast brotherhood, literally, because I was like, it was like literally, it's like it clicked. I was like, oh, this makes sense. This makes a lot of sense. Like he's like, and John would be like, finally, someone that talks more than me.
It's hard to have that connection. Yeah, it's hard to have that connection, especially on a show. Yeah, and so, that's amazing. You and John have that connection together, and I can see it.
Yeah, totally. So we always have a good time. We always have some fun. We always have some banter in between too. It's like we have a great mix of just like brotherhood, but also it's like, dude, like, no, my take is gonna be this, or you're this, or that. It's like, no, this is why, and this is here. And
I love it. You take and give, and that's what's important. It's like I have my own ideas, and you have your own ideas, but okay, we'll let it go at some point.
Yeah, totally. So getting the show together and then everything together. When you first saw us last year at the Facebook Expo, it was like we're still like making sure everything was going to be everything before we really got the ball really win. And again, last year was like our rookie year at the Expo, and again, we met great people, had great conversations, and we're able to take some tips and apply them. And then we went back to the Expo a couple months back. It was last month, I should say. Now we're able to then just again feel like a seasoned vet, right? We're in the so-called league now. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's like when a rookie starts out in the NFL, sometimes they come up and do things, and sometimes they just really don't, or whatever happens their first year. Second year now, it's like, all right, doing our show and how we should do it, and taking notes, and talking to the right people, like. And again, like really having like more in-depth conversations as well. Not just about fantasy football though. It was really, about life and whatever. Like I said, me and Andy, like I was just like talking to him. It was like someone that was like, man, I looked at your work when I was first doing fantasy football leagues in 2007. Like, so I'm like to meet you a person, have conversation, not just about fantasy football, but about him as a man and stuff. Like, it was great. Like, so it was again like people go to fantasy football expo. You think we're always talking about fantasy football, but little do we know, like,
no,
like, there's some talk, but not enough of it. Let's just say that. So
let's talk people about, because we're talking about the expo, about the fantasy football expo that happened every single year in Ohio, and there's a lot of people that they never went, Nick, but they are afraid to go. They are afraid to talk with someone like Andy, or someone like Bob, or like Doug, or JC, Joe, like these big people in the community, or you, because a lot of people look at you like you are someone. And for me, everybody have a name. Everybody is big in the community. What can you tell people that they are behind, like us, they are behind the camera, but they never played fantasy football, or they never went to the expo? How can you tell them that it's okay to go and it's okay to ask questions? Because you were saying, I ask a lot of questions so I can be here today.
Right. So for me, I really think when I talk to people about just like having some conversations or whatever, just go do it. Like you would think about those moments that, people think about the moments of how their life shaped them in some ways, right? Like their girlfriend that turned their wife or husband, right? Their conversations or two that turned them into the job that became their career. These things, like you had to find like just a tiny bit of boldness within yourself to go do. So this is no different. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's really just going up and just saying, hey, my name is so-and-so. Hey, where are you from? Or, hey, I've noticed your work on X and X. I've said this, that, and the third. And just break the ice, as well. I mean, look, it's really just, you're not talking to gods per se or anything. It's literally just like, hey, like, like I've seen this, or, hey, I know you from so-and-so, or, hey, where are you from? Like, just ask, and you'll icebreaking questions and just get in there.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's everybody's approachable. Like I said, like 98% of our community is like, top tier, fantastic vibe and everything and stuff like that. And that's just, again, the reason why I say 98% is because we're all not perfect. So,
yeah.
Oh man. So Sydney, what's up, Sydney? Appreciate the shout, Sydney. I really appreciate that. Yes, patio was such a vibe. The double tree was amazing. The double tree was off the chain, like for real. Like it was something else. Like JJ saw the JJ because you might know the drinks, like, and then all the people in between, like it was just amazing, like for real.
JJ and Drew have all the drinks and like bags and ice and everything. And it's a party after the party.
And then a party, yeah, literally.
A party after the party at the festival. If you know, you know.
One of the differences from the first year to my second year. The first year, mid to towards the end, I lost my voice for a little while. When I went back, I was determined. I was like, I'm not losing my voice this year. I literally woke up on Sunday thinking I lost my voice though. I was like, oh no, not happening again. No, but it ended up correcting itself later. But look, like after Saturday into Sunday, like people were dragging. Like,
yes, I agree. I agree. So Nick, being now out there and having your own show and trying to start fantasy football content on Twitter, we all know there's a lot of trolls or negativity all over social media. So how do you handle trolls or negative comments in a way that preserves your community tone?
Well, look, you're gonna have those part of the game, part of the contract, they say, right? And the best part about it is that for me, I try to keep it as a game. If I don't have enough, I'm upset with myself. If I don't have enough people saying you're crazy or this and the third, or I believe you're wrong, or you said this about this player, it's like I take that with a badge of honor. I'm like, dang, why aren't more people saying this? That's how you protect your own self, honestly, too. Because again, like people get all up in arms about this, that, and the third. About you said this player, that player. Hey, I was wrong. More information just came out. Hey, it is what it is. Like, to be perfect. I told you I'm gonna mess up 60% of the time. Like, so.
What are you right now? The Chiefs just got Judy?
Wow.
I'm so sorry, Kelly Mike. I'm so sorry. Maybe we're gonna be at the Super Bowl this year.
I didn't see anything about that. That really just happened? No way. If that really just happened, I got bad notifications then.
I don't know. We can ask Doug later about it.
That's crazy.
But we're gonna go with you with that. So tell me, how do you measure success beyond followers or subscribers count? Because we know that, like Twitter, if you don't have subscribers or people who's following you, it's kind of like a big thing on Twitter. But how do you manage that if you don't have subscribers and people that follows you?
Look, don't get discouraged. Literally, it's one of those things where it's really sometimes not the amount of people that are literally following you or whatever. It's really just the impact that people are leaving. I may have like 2,000 followers on Twitter, which is so-called small number for me. But honestly, I don't look too much into that because I allow, really the people that I interact with to do that, to have cooler interactions with, because I don't look into all the shape or form of, I don't have as many subscribers here, or I don't do this, and it's like whatever. It's one of those things where you don't want to consume yourself with that. That's why I kind of looked at too. So if for people that are thinking about that, I've been in their shoes before where it's like, oh man, I don't have this big following. I'm not with this big company, or I'm not doing this or that. It's like, look, you having a blog and talking about fantasy football, or you just doing line by line takes on Twitter, because I call it Twitter. Forget the X, that's really for the new
Yeah.
If people are thinking about doing content, even if it's not consistent right away, just doing it. I started while I was, in the hospital bed in some forms, doing a blogger account and literally just recapping NBA games, or I'm saying, or just saying my thoughts about certain headlines or whatever. So everyone starts somewhere. So I would, as far as the subscribers and the followers and all that, like that's a game that you just don't want to have you don't want to play in terms of like comparison mode and stuff like that, because that would just get you more down in the dumps and it leaves you in a negative headspace.
Yeah. Can you share your funniest on-air blooper or inside joke that you and John have, or just you?
Oh man, that is a good question. I will say that we've had nicknames for certain players.
Yeah.
So like so last year, where people were leaving Chuba Hubba, we call him, for dead, because he was getting drafted like 11th round, 12th round. Like Chuba Hubbard was like, what we use all year long. Like, I'm saying, when people say Chuba Hubbard, like Chuba Hubba, I'm saying Chuba Hubba. So that's one of the funny stories I have on top of my head for sure. But yeah, we just find we'll probably call it with the hashtag of your favorite fantasy football homeboys. You know what I'm saying? Because that's exactly how it feels like when you come into our show. Like that's what it really is like.
I love that. I really love that. That's really cool. So we're gonna call you that. What's your favorite recurring segment, and why does it resonate with you both?
Recurring segment, you said?
Yeah.
Favorite recurring segment that we have literally is, it doesn't always recur because it just happens naturally. But again, whenever we kind of have like sometimes we'll just have shows that we're smooth breezing. We go back and forth about like, hey, yeah, that's a good take by that player. Oh, yeah, that's a good take by this player. And it's boring per se, but then it's like, every once in a couple episodes will come up and like, oh man, you're on this player? Like, yeah, I'm on this player. Like, what you got to say about this player? Well, he said this and he did this. Like, okay, well, this player is going to do this. We're talking about Debo. He's like, you really became the Debo guy. I'm like, well, yeah, I did. Like, so it's just one of those things where was like those moments where like, oh yeah, we have disagreements, or not the same, where we do this versus this, like is always more entertaining. So sometimes it just comes more naturally. So as far as segment goes, that's one of them, because it's like, hey, like, it's going to come up, but we just don't know which episode is going to come up in. So it's always cool for the audience, cool for ourselves when it happens, because it's going to, like I said, it happens live and it happens naturally. So,
True. So how did the opportunity to write for Fantrax came about?
More recently, actually, because I had shout out to Colin McTanney, because we played in draft night out last year, and me, John, it was me, John, him, and like some other people. None of us won it, but I got to the championship and lost by like 4 points. It was a heartbreaker. Dave Montgomery. Anyhow, that being said, but and that's another thing about the expo. It's like you're gonna meet people at the expo, and like my good buddy Dustin says, like you meet people at the expo, but that's just beginning of like some of those awesome friendships that come about.
Sure.
And because because me and Colin stay connected, and we always enjoyed each other's banter and stuff like that. He's an Eagles fan, like I'm a Jets fan, so it's like, hey, you won the championship, bro, with Barkley and everything. Like it was good for Barkley because you didn't take him, because I took him in that league that year, and I was talking mad joke to him all year long whenever Barkley went off, like because again we were like Barkley, like with whenever he was going off. So, but me and Colin definitely stayed in touch, and he told me about an opportunity to write with Fantrax, and that's how that came about. And he was like, look, like I know you, you've done cool work and stuff like that. I've seen your growth throughout the year, and I think you'd be a perfect spot to go do that. Like, would you be interested in doing that? I'm like, well, yeah, like, just like who do I gotta speak with or whatever. And that's how it kind of came about. So blessed to have the opportunity. My director, his name's also Nick, so shout out Nick Script.
Nice.
So I write the tight end streamers and sleepers articles. They drop every Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever. I write that for every week that comes out. So
That's
great
cool.
to have the opportunity and more of the opportunities that come about. So
how do you what tone or voice do you aim for when crafting pieces for the Fentrax audience?
Well, I try to aim my my overall article basis. I try to mix in some guys that you may want to double check for. So last week I wrote about Juwan Johnson, and he was someone that, when I took a deeper dive into the tight end landscape, he was someone that, we're talking about Juwan Johnson. He's 28 now, but he is a wide receiver converted to tight end. He got an extension this past offseason with a team that was supposed to be so-called rebuilding in New Orleans. And, Spencer Rattler loved targeting his tight ends whenever he was in a game, because literally he was playing with second and third stringers the end of last year. So putting that all together made me kind of be like, I mentioned him as one of the overall sleepers from heading into week one. So when he was a tight end 1 overall, full point PPR, I was like, ooh, okay. One of the reasons also was that because of the pace of the Saints. If you look at Kellen Moore's offenses, it was literally he didn't have any. He had a ninth or lower rank in pace per play for plays. So constantly churning plays in terms of tempo. So with that being said, that's why I told people heading into draft season that the Saints are underrated, and everyone's looking at the situation like it's a yuck situation, and it kind of is. But what if the market is wrong? What if we're getting these guys at a great discount, like Chris Olave as your wide receiver 3 in most times in your rosters, Shaheed as your wide receiver 4, and Juwan Johnson, I could tell you this much, he probably wasn't drafted in a ton of leagues. So it was it was one of those things where you gotta, it goes back to what I was saying before, your micro edges. You gotta find something where the market is wrong on, because the market with ADPs and how they look at things at times, even when we're playing DFS every week for the prices and stuff like that on players, you gotta find your stand on okay, I know if I'm right on this, I know I'm gonna be ahead of the next several people either in my league or the leaderboard for DFS every week, whatever. So it's one of those things. And same thing with your stashes upcoming for waiver wires. It's like Elijah Arroyo, someone that's probably getting dropped already because the Seattle offense and this, that, and the third. He's someone that, hey, if you missed out on Fannin today or you missed out on Juwan Johnson or whatever, see if Arroyo's out there, because I think he's someone that may not pay off right away, but he's someone you could definitely stash upon and just observe week by week. These are the things that you'll have to also, when in your managed leagues, have to pay attention to.
Definitely, 100%. You never know what or who is going to be injured on that week. So that's something that you need to keep an eye on.
Ouch. So, Sniper, no, that sucks. Yes. 3 injured players already in Scottish.
That's crazy. How do you make sure that your writing remains accessible to new players, not just fantasy veterans?
And that's where my article I try to be careful of, because not everyone is, because everyone has ranging either skill sets or leagues that they're in, right? Some people are playing, your standardized PPR settings. Some people are still playing standard, which, oh my gosh, I hope you're not playing standard, which is touchdowns basically only almost. If you are, tell your league mates to change that scoring setting. But I try to aim for, people who play, PPR scoring and who play with, whether it be you got to start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex or 2, or you got to start 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 2 flex, or 1 flex, whatever. I think my overall goal with the article would really just be like with my streamers. It's like, hey, the streamers are probably players you should think about playing this week. And then the people who are sleepers are guys that are either underowned and can have an opportunity to shine, or really can, again, one of those stashes. So people aren't talking about Jake Tongues of the Niners, the guy that will step into, or at least one of the guys that could potentially step into Kittle's role, with Luke Farrell, Luke Farrell was also someone that, no one's rostering at the moment. But I guarantee you, if Jake Tongue goes out this week and drops 8 catches for like 60 yards or whatever, does something impactful, you're looking at a potential kid to replace for at least several weeks, because the Niners, they could, Mac Jones could be starting this week. That seems a little ugly. But again, with fantasy football, you gotta look for the opportunities to see who's gonna, potentially emerge. You want to try to beat the 11 other people or whatever, 9 other people in your league to see how that can do it. But my quick advice, if you have Kittle, if you're feeling iffy about Evan Ingram, I know he had limited tag in practice today, so that should be a good thing. But also we had Brock Bowers, who was dealing with something. He's day to day, but those other situations seem cool. But if they're, again, you gotta be ahead of your league mates. Like, like I said, if you miss out on Fannin and Johnson, go get a Royal. Because he's someone, I think if anyone, like, it's not possible, but go grab Jake Ferguson if he's still available. I think he's still available in about like 40-something% of leagues out there. So availability is just checking that, and again, just doing due diligence. Really, that's all fantasy football is. I try to look at fantasy football as like a risk management situation, where it's like, okay, like for draft season, I try to approach like, okay, who's the guys that are going to be, they deserve the tags, but may not want to draft because I can look to trade for them later. That type of thing. And the same thing applies going into this in season, right? Like, all right, risk management. You can't predict when the injuries are going to come. How can you stay ahead of it? Like, so.
It looks like Sniper Mel had a Kittle, so she had like Kittle with like sad face. Sorry, Sniper Mel.
That's rough.
Nick, describe a typical morning at CNS Wholesale. How does your day begin?
Well, it starts my day with literally looking at my computer for 7:30 in the morning, because I have so many reports I have to do. For what I do for my day-to-day job is what we call a buyer. So a buyer really is, I'm doing things for. I'm the middleman between the vendor, so like your Nestle, for instance, whatever, and getting your creamers to the stores, because pumpkin spice season's here, people, right? So I'm responsible for getting some of that to the stores, while also, talking with the customers about, hey, like what kind of ads or deals or whatever we can come up with or stuff like that, whatever. So, so that's like, for me, like, it's a cool gig, because, there's some days I get to work from home, and be able to balance stuff out. So again, pay some bills day to day. It's a cool little gig career to have. And I know pumpkin spice, right? You already know. It's that time. Like, like, all right, did you get the pumpkin spice, your creamers in the stores? Yeah. I'm like, well, yeah, it's going. Like, can you tell them to make sure to buy it, please? Like,
I don't know how people like the pumpkin coffee and stuff like that, and they wait for it for this time of year. I can't. I can't put anything in my coffee.
Here in New England, it's the fall foliage, right? So
black coffee for me. Black coffee. I'm all set.
Pumpkin everything. Pumpkin everything.
I can.
Pumpkin everything. Jeez.
I know. I can. So, how do you decompress after a high stress ordering week, Nick?
That's a good question. I literally, part of it really is getting on the mic and talking fantasy football.
Let's go.
But honestly, staying at home with the family at times, and we'll do things in terms of games or just talk, or just go out and try to just, again, decompress your own self first, and then be like, hey, let's have some fun. This. Because again, all of us go through life, and we have our jobs and stuff like that. And it's something where again, definitely decompressing is important.
So, do you play any video games? Because
Totally.
I know a lot of people when they go home, they decompress by video games, or I want to unwind after a long week of football contact. So, what's your gaming style? Is it aggressive, defensive? You want to explore new stuff, or does it mirror your fantasy approach?
I would say like my gaming has something where I've definitely fallen off per se in terms of like how I've had I've had PlayStation, I've had Xbox, whatever. Currently I have an Xbox right now. Currently Marvel Rivals is the game right now. Marvel Rivals is the game right now, and it's definitely sometimes a bit addicting, like it's definitely sometimes
I have kids in my house driving me insane.
Sometimes it's like, okay, whoa, Nick. All right, let's get off this thing.
Yeah.
You got some adulting to do, right? So
you scream?
Say again.
You scream when you play?
Oh no, but it's something where it's like if someone got me good, I'm like, they got me good. I'm not sure if anyone's ever played Marvel Rivals, but like something where it's like Iron Man just shoots you, so he has like Iron Man has like he has like a cannon that basically he can just fire away from the sky and land in. So it's like kind of like a moonshot almost. So it's like maximum pulse and all right, you got me sitting. All right, you got me.
So tell me, because you play games, tell me why the game word is impressive. Why do you find it impressive?
Because I think when it comes to the gaming world, like it's something I always grew up on. Like I grew up on the PlayStation, the PlayStation 2, the N64, the GameCube. You know what I'm saying? I can go on and on. So some of those things, like some of it, video games in general, sometimes it's one of those things that can be decompressing because it's like kind of brings you back to when you were a kid a bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Depending on the games, like sometimes they'll have some of these retro throwbacks. So for instance, like I have the Xbox Pass and it's like you can download like the Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like what I'm saying, stuff like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like talk about reminiscing, right? It's like reminiscing a Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like or so it just again like it's cool to kind of just reminiscing on certain stuff or like, oh my gosh, I remember this game and how it's all highlighted and stuff. Some people look at the negatives of the video game world, which I just try to stay in my own lane when it comes to that for the most part, because it's just, you don't want to get too like all hyped up into it because it's like, people are going to do their own thing. Or, for instance, like one of the negatives I saw in the gaming world is that, the new Nintendo, what I'm saying, like came out and they skyrocketed the price.
Yes,
almost the same product. And I was like, this is starting. That's why also people have gotten kind of, stepped back from video games a bit because the corporations get, some of these corporations are just getting more greedier and greedier. And that's also something that, like, again, I stay in my own lane. Like, Xbox is cool to put on, like, but I have also wondered, like, why certain games are not on the Xbox. And they're all over PlayStation, so it's also like because PlayStation where it's at. Like, I guess, like, hey, I don't get into all that. Just give me a game I can play, and that's cool. Like mostly it's sporting games, but every once in a while I got my adventure games going. Like I didn't even know, but they had like the new Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that came out, so I started like playing that, like a bit. So yeah, totally, definitely a gamer nerd. Definitely geek at times.
Because we're a geek at times, if you could design a fantasy football video game, what would it be its killer feature?
That is a really good question. If I were to make a fantasy football video game, one of the highlights of the game have to be where, in order for your fantasy football league to come to life, Like you gotta make confessionals in the game. So you have the actual fantasy football game, and where like you can, you know, for example, you take your platforms, you put it on there and stuff like that. But within the game, you're making a confessional, or you're doing what you would normally do, and like in general, but like, hey, you have to do a video about it, or hey, like, you got to make it more like where it's like the game is going on and you're talking smack during it. Like, it's like, you bring like a best ball formatted style to it, and then these are all your players, and they automatically get put in, and as things are going, you're just talking smack in the video or whatever, making it more interactive. So
oh my god.
So something along those lines that has to happen, because otherwise you're just literally just playing Madden on franchise mode. It doesn't make any sense. Like so something along those features where it's like it's got to be like video active and stuff like that.
So the hour is done, but I want to ask a couple more questions because we still have a couple more questions about reality shows and stuff like that, because I know
totally. Please.
reality shows. What draws you to competitive reality shows like The Challenge, Survivor, and Big Brothers?
So funny story, because some people don't. I'll give you a little insider on this. Was it 2011 or something like that? Okay, so sorry. Go back to high school where I first started watching The Challenge, the Survivor, the Big Brother, stuff like that. The Amazing Race didn't come until later, but that's usually like that's why I also get excited about fall, because I already know these shows are coming back. There's gonna be new this, there's gonna be new that. Like, oh my god, I can't wait! Like my girlfriend gets at me, is like, you love the drama. I was like, I kind of do.
Do you watch Love Island?
I don't like my own drama, but I like other people's drama.
Love Island, it's a lot of drama.
No. Absolutely not. No. See, that's the difference. So some people like, it's like, oh yeah, you love the drama. It's like, but Love Island? I'm like, no, because that's dumb. Like, it's like, me and my girlfriend will sit down and we'll watch like Love Is Blind or whatever, or something like that. And that's cool because it's like, it's some of it might be contrived, but it's still like it pulls you in, you know what I'm saying, in some type of way. I don't watch Love Island like that. I've kind of always been like, because they've crossed over to some other shows, and I'm like, that they don't do well when they cross over to other shows like that. Like for instance, Love Island. Some people Love Island transitions over to like The Challenge a little bit, and I'm like, you don't belong here. Get out of here. Like, you're only here for filler.
I watched one.
So
yeah,
crazy. That's a long story short, but like I said, I always get excited for the fall as well, because football obviously, but also my TV shows is back. Like we all in. But in terms of where it all started, a funny story for me, like around like 2011 or whatever, I went to audition for The Challenge. I did. Unfortunately, I didn't get too far in the casting, but I was like, I just had to go do it. Like, I was like, man, I just wonder if I got on, like, so, but
that's cool.
But it is what it is. Like, I was like, let me just go do it. Went and drove up to New York and went to go interview and stuff like that. I might have to go do something for a different show. Like, I might have to go audition for Big Brother or something like that, because I'm like, oh man, I might be perfect for Big Brother, maybe. I don't know. Hey, if anyone knows anyone from Big Brother, executive producers, let me let them know to come. Let them know, and I'll set them an audition tape.
I love that.
But I gotta get in shape first, but.
What's the most inspiring comeback you've seen in reality TV history?
That is very interesting. There was one. It actually happened more recently. Where this is the show. It was Deal or No Deal. Deal or No Deal Island. I watched more recently, and I watched the first season because Boston Rob from Survivor was on it. If anyone knows Boston Rob, so he was on it first season. The second season, I tuned in, and it was Parvati from Survivor, and also a guy named David, who I watched some of his Australian Survivor seasons somehow. And I was like bored one night, and I was like, I was like, I know about our Survivor in America, but like, is there other Survivor countries?
Yeah.
Or whatever? Like how they do Big Brother, and luckily just landed on New Zealand, and I fell in love with the guy named David.
Wow.
And he overall, so what happened was with him, the Deal or No Deal Island, was he was playing the game with Parvati for a long time, and then Parvati ended up leaving the game and kind of left him left out in the cold in a way to win the game. He got to play the final Deal or No Deal game, and I watched him several times deny. The briefcase is for like $800,000, $1 million. It was $2 million. You know what I'm saying? And then it was like, oh my gosh, you're not taking it. It's like we're all at the edge of our seats because it's like you pick the wrong case. The next time you go down, it's almost a wrap. You won't get that type of money again. So it's like we're all kind of riveting at our seats, and it could have been contrived. Who knows? But you know how these shows can kind of be like, it didn't really happen like this. Like, side note, there was like on Netflix, there's like the Biggest Loser documentary or whatever. If anyone's ever watched The Biggest Loser, like, there's a whole big documentary about how certain things was like it was portrayed this way, portrayed that way. I'm like, well, yep, that's how shows too. Like, but anyhow, my story, David ended up winning
Biggest Loser.
David ended up winning $5.8 million. the biggest amount of money in like reality show history.
That's crazy.
I was like, what?
That's crazy. You wonder. You really wonder. Especially that we did the documentary about The Biggest Loser. It's an eye opener, and it's really bad. It's really bad. If you never watch it, you guys, you have to watch it because they put these people like so down. It's not okay. It was not okay. Oh my God.
And just the way they kind of like, because I watched The Biggest Loser, like I didn't watch the first couple of seasons because I think it was on a different network. Once they transitioned to NBC, I was like, I was a kid with no cable at the time. I ended up watching, some of that or whatever. And I remember Bob the trainer, and he was always pretty decent or whatever, stuff like that. But Jillian was like, you got it. Like, oh, yeah. Like, all right then. Like, so I mean, the documentary was definitely a bit off the chain, like for real. But it goes to show business is one thing.
It is show business. It's all about the money. It's all about the people, and to bring more people into it, it's what they need to do. So, Nick, I really don't want to finish this episode. You're such an amazing person to get to know, but I still have a couple questions to ask you.
Sure.
The first one is, what advice would you give someone struggling to find their own voice in fantasy football, in real life, anywhere? What can you give them, especially that you're someone that, you overcame a lot? What kind of advice you can give people?
I guess my advice for a person that's like haven't really found their lane or is kind of just like they're uncomfortable in their own skin. Trying to figure out what brings you fun and joy and happiness.
True.
What are those things? And like, no matter the money, no matter the people around you, whatever, like trying to find out for your own self, like do an analysis for yourself. Like I would just say, hey, take a pen, take a pen and a pad, or type it out and be like, hey, like, this is what just brain dump, literally. Every once in a blue, I got to do that for myself in terms of like, hey, what's just coming to me? Like, I'll just go ahead, I'll do it, or I'll write it, or whatever. In terms of like ideas and stuff like that. So I would say, like, for people that are again trying to find their own lane, again, what's your passion? What brings you excitement? Like, what are those things? Either jot them down or tell someone, like a great friend of yours or whatever. And just be like, hey, like, could you remind me every once in a while about like, this, that, third, you love doing this, or hey, this, like, and really go from there, because I think what happens so many times in life, because sometimes life gets really heavy.
Yeah.
Life can really be like, you sometimes for myself, like you're already kind of like on yourself enough. Like you already, like for me, like I'm my biggest critic. I'll be like, hey, like you did this wrong, or you did this, or da da da. Like, you try to beat yourself down sometimes too many times. But what I will say is that once you understand about yourself, there's a way you can pivot from it. There's a way, like, you know what? I did this, that, and the third. Yeah, I did. But also, hey, here's what came about from this. Or, hey, this is what happened here. So do the same for yourself. Do a self-inventory check for yourself. And be like, hey, like, I'm either I like doing this or I'm really good at this. And then see if I can marry something that in between. So, for instance, for people, like, I'm not the best, like, data analysis, like, person for researching and stuff like that, whatever. Like, I'll do my best to do statistics, but like there's other people in the space of fantasy football that like go deep dive into like this statistic and that statistic and that there. And I'm like, man, like you're more talented than me, and that's okay in that department. But I know some people also that, again, like they could never do what I do in terms of like getting on the camera literally in front of your face now and come up with X, Y, and Z in front of the camera. And be like, hey, this. So, but again, finding your own strengths and find out what those are. And people always say, find out your strengths and weaknesses and work on your weaknesses. Like you can do that, but honestly, I always just tell people, hey, just focus on what makes you great. Focus on your own strengths. Really just double down on what makes you great, literally, because everyone's great. It depends on what you either find for yourself that's great or what define. And then ask also those people in your circle. So take about 10 of your friends and be, hey, like, what am I good at? What do you see me doing? What do we, and also take inventory in that too. Not to say you have to take that as, as gold or anything, but take it as, again, self-analysis. So I challenge people just to self-analyze, self-analyze themselves and just go from there.
Thank you, Nick. That was a great advice. I do still have one more question. I do ask all my guests. So I want you to share something that you never ever shared before with people, maybe a secret or something that you did in an early age, but you never spoke of. What can you share on the podcast tonight?
Stole a honey bun from a grocery store.
You what?
I stole a honey bun from the grocery store. When I was like 10 years old, hopefully the owner's not watching this at CC's grocery store.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I was a bad kid. Sometimes
it's not a bad kid. I did believe that. We all do it at some point.
But I was in Greenfield, Mass at the time because that's where I spent some of my adolescence. And yeah, I took it from the store. I was so stupid though because my mother ended up catching me later on with it. It's like, I didn't buy you that. Where'd you get that from? I was like,
Oh my God.
I was definitely embarrassed to tell people that, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's great.
So before we wrap up, Nick, please let our listeners know how they can connect with you online and stay updated with your work. Please tell them about your show and your work and how they can connect with you.
Sure. Yeah. So Nick Wilcox. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter. The Fantasy Football Show on YouTube, me and my guy John, twice on Sunday and on Monday, live shows for your fantasy football content. But yeah, follow us on Twitter. Hashtag is below. And that being said, look, I mean, if you interact with me, it'd be a blessing to do so. And again, thank you for giving me the time to come on your show. And hopefully I told your followers a little bit about myself. And anyone ever needs like any type of like question answered, fantasy football related or not, or just want to interact, don't be afraid to do so. Don't be afraid to do so.
Agreed. That was such an honor, Nick. Thank you so much for being on the show. Dennis, so true. Laughter is the best medicine for the soul. I totally agree with you guys. I cannot thank you guys enough for coming every single Wednesday, being on the show, interacting with my guests, with me, and without you, the show will not continue. So thank you all. Thank you, Nick, for tonight. And
Absolutely.
thank you for joining me on for this episode of The Game Changer. I hope today's conversation gave you a fresh perspective, not just on fantasy football, but on the game of life. Mark your calendar. Michael from Women of Fantasy Football. He will be joining me next Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You don't want to miss that one. Big thank you tonight for JC, who's eating behind the scene. I can see you. And Joe, they're both behind the scene tonight helping out. So thank you so much for the magic that you do. You guys are a powerhouse team. And for the whole TSA team for making this platform possible for me. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe and leave us a review and follow us on social media. Stay connected and be part of the Sports Affiliation, a community where every fan, thinker, and change maker is welcome. Until next time, keep challenging the game and making your mark. This is Carla signing off with Nick Wilcox, everybody. Have a great and pleasant evening. Thank you, everyone. Love you too.